Hello there. So since you guys have basically finished reading, discussing, and analyzing Trifles, I just want to kind of wrap this up by giving my take on the play, and just to kind of give you guys an idea of where I approach this play when I read it. So for me, the main point to understanding Trifles comes from understanding the title and why it's called Trifles. So a trifle basically refers to a kind of small, minor, relatively unimportant thing. And it comes up in the play when the county attorney has a line when he says something to, I think, Mrs. Hale along the lines of women are used to worrying about trifles, meaning basically saying women are used to worrying about the little things and paying attention to the minor things. And this concept of women paying attention to the trifles, women noticing and paying attention to the little things, is a really important part of understanding this play because that's how the women are able to figure this out. The whole point of this play, the men bring everybody out there because they're searching for hard proof that Mrs. Wright killed her husband, and they're looking for evidence to indicate a motive why. And the men keep searching the house, and they can't find out. They can't find this proof. They can't find anything to indicate the reason why Mrs. Wright killed her husband. And kind of because of that, they can't find the proof they need to convict her and prove that she did it. The women, because they are used to focusing on the small things, the minor details, and just the little things, the women, by paying attention to those things in Mrs. Wright's house, are able to not only figure out that, yeah, she did kill her husband, but also they're able to figure out why she killed her husband. They notice her uneven stitching on the quilt, which they take as a sign that she was distracted or she was kind of stressed out and anxious because her sewing was erratic and her sewing was reflecting that. They notice they find the broken bird cage, and eventually they find the dead bird with its neck wrung. And they start inferring that Mr. Wright killed her bird, and basically that would be the straw that broke the camel's back. The play heavily implies that John Wright was emotionally abusive, and they make a point of saying that he wasn't a bad man. They make a point of saying, like, he wasn't violent, he wasn't a drunk, he didn't owe any money, he worked hard, he provided. Again, he was a man of good standing in the town. People respected him, but they also make a point of mentioning that he was a pretty harsh and difficult person to live with. And to me, I think the implication is he was emotionally abusive, or what we today might consider emotionally abusive to Mrs. Wright. And that over time, as these abuses multiplied, and eventually when he kills her bird, she snaps. And that is kind of the eventual release of all that pent-up frustration towards her husband over the years. But again, the women figure this out by just paying attention to the little things. And the fact that the men don't notice it, to me, that gives away the core dynamic of the play and what this play has to say about gender relations, in particular, the relationship between husbands and wives. So that I find to be pretty interesting. And me personally, like, I asked the question in the discussion, was John Wright's killing justified? I honestly don't know where I stand on it, because on the one hand, I really do sympathize with Mrs. Wright. I mean, if her husband really was abusive and that difficult of a person to live with, and basically he isolated her from the town and she had nobody around but him, I can understand how that would grate on a person. And furthermore, when you take in the cultural and historical context of the time, this play was written in 1916. So in that context, divorce was unthinkable. There is no way a woman would ever divorce her husband. If you married this person, if you married somebody, you were stuck with them until they died, until either they die or you die. So Mrs. Wright the divorce or leaving him was not an option. And I understand where she may be coming from, where he may really have been a bad husband. But on the other hand, does that warrant him being murdered? Does that mean he deserves to die? And to me, that's a question that I don't really have an easy answer to. I don't really know how I answer that. And I noticed a lot of disagreement and a lot of discussion and debate going on in the discussion board for this. And I'm really glad this play sparked that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how these discussions develop as we look at these other plays that we have to read. So with that, guys, have a good weekend, and we'll get back to this on Monday.